Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Yes, okay, perfect. All right, well, when Charlie first invited me to speak today about mental health, the neuroscientist in me immediately thought about fancy brain diagrams and things like how our stress hormones influence our thoughts and behaviors. But none of us came here today for a neuroscience lecture. We came here for some perspective, grounding, and maybe even a little hope. So instead, what I want to share today is a little bit about what I think our nervous systems are up against today, and how I believe that communities like this one here at UU Amherst are the very medicine that our nervous systems need right now. So our nervous systems are ancient. They were shaped tens of thousands of years ago to keep us alive in small groups. They were designed to notice a rustle in the grass. Could that be a predator? They were designed to read the mood of a handful of our neighbors. Is my group safe or not? They were designed to tell us when to fight, when to flee, and when to rest. And that system worked beautifully back when we lived in small villages. But today, our brains are asked to process headlines from every corner of the world. It's a constant scroll of cruelty, chaos, and crises, one after another after another. We're exposed to daily wars we cannot stop. We're exposed to disasters we cannot prevent. And we're exposed to cruelty we cannot comprehend. Our brains were not wired for this much information. It's like standing in a hailstorm with no shelter. Each headline, another stone against our skin. No wonder so many of us are feeling so overwhelmed right now. For me, this overwhelm comes most often at night when I'm lying in bed next to my youngest daughter, my beautifully chubby and healthy baby girl. A baby who is so chubby that when I give her a bath at night, I actually have to separate each little fold on her arms and legs in order to get her clean. And while I'm lying next to her in bed, I'll pull out my little sadness machine, my cell phone, and I'll see images of babies halfway around the world who are so thin, you can count every single one of their tiny little ribs. Babies who haven't had a meal in days. Mothers whose bodies are so nutritionally deprived that they no longer produce milk. My nervous system cannot take those two realities. The perfect roundness of the baby in my bed, alongside the pain and needless suffering of babies around the world, including those in our own country. And I imagine all of you have your own versions of that feeling, whether it's sitting down to a warm meal and seeing news of famine, or watching your kids or grandchildren play and hearing about yet another school shooting, or lying awake at night reading about new threats to our democracy and feeling the fear of what authoritarianism might mean for our children and our grandchildren's future. It's too much for one body to hold. And I want to be honest about another layer of this overwhelm, at least for me. It's the guilt that comes with living in privilege. The guilt of having moments of joy, rest, and safety while the world is on fire. Like when I'm laughing with my kids in the backyard, knowing no one will come pounding on our door to take us away. Or when I'm kissing them goodnight without the fear that their skin color might make them a target. In these moments, a little voice rises in the back of my head and hisses. How dare you laugh when families are being torn apart? How dare you rest when others lie awake, fearing for their children's safety? Why aren't you doing more? Why aren't you giving more? Why aren't you trying harder? And maybe you all have heard that voice too. But what I'm learning slowly and imperfectly is that joy is not betrayal. Rest is not betrayal. They are medicine. They are what allow us to keep showing up with compassion instead of collapsing under the weight of despair. In a world on fire, it doesn't help anyone to douse ourselves in gasoline just to prove that we care. We need to keep ourselves grounded and steady enough to hold the fire hose. So here's where I want to slip in a bit of science. If you've been feeling anxious or overwhelmed or depressed or exhausted lately, that means your nervous system is working exactly the way it's intended to work. When our nervous systems sense threat, they sound the alarm. Chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol flood through our bodies and prepare us to fight or flee. It's a useful system if the threat is a tiger on the path in front of us. But when the tiger is thousands of miles away and the threat never ends, our alarm system gets stuck in the on position. And after a while, that wears us down. We start to live in a constant state of tension, and that's what so many of us are experiencing lately. And this is where I believe that communities like this one are so important, because we were never meant to carry the weight of the world, and we certainly weren't meant to do it alone. We were meant to support each other and to support each other's nervous systems. And there's actually a word for this sort of mutual support in neuroscience. It's called co-regulation. And if any of you have ever spent time around a toddler, you may have experienced the power of co-regulation firsthand. Actually, Les, could we just go back to that previous slide? Thank you. When a toddler is having a full-blown meltdown, their nervous system has gone completely haywire. The emotional parts of the brain, like the amygdala, have taken the reins from the logical parts, and the result is often a very loud and very dramatic display of behavior. But when an adult steps in, something remarkable can happen. If they scoop that toddler up, take slow breaths, speak calmly, and let them know that they are safe and they are loved, gradually their nervous system starts to settle. Their emotions quiet, and the logical thinking parts of their brain can come back online. And then you can explain to them why they still can't have that cookie before dinner. Now, I'm not saying that all of you are acting like tantruming toddlers, but the principle is the same for adults. Our nervous systems need each other. They need to co-regulate. For a long time, I couldn't quite put my finger on why I enjoy coming here so much every Sunday. What is it that keeps me coming here when I could be doing 100 other things? Then it dawned on me. It's co-regulation. All week long, I move through the world with my nervous system on fire. Then I walk through these doors, and it's like the example of the parent hugging their tantruming toddler. Little by little, the flame goes out. When we gather here each week, we breathe together, we sing together, we share presence together, and in doing so, we co-regulate. This congregation and this community is one of the best examples I know of the power of co-regulation in action. We're not just gathering, we're not just singing, we're not just drinking coffee later and chatting with each other. we're actively influencing and regulating each other's nervous systems. And there's something even more amazing about this. The more often we engage in co-regulation, the more our brains actually change. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself in response to experience. When we regularly engage in co-regulation, breathing together, singing together, supporting each other, we're not only calming our bodies in the moment, we're training our brains for the long haul. The logical reasoning parts of our brain become better at overriding the emotional alarm system when threats arise. Over time, our nervous systems learn, I know how to come back to steadiness. I've practiced this. I don't have to stay stuck in alarm mode. So the simple, ordinary act of showing up here each week isn't just comfort in the moment. It's long-term resilience. It's literally reshaping our brains toward calm, compassion, and connection. So right now, I want to try something simple together. Let's just take one slow breath in and then let it out. But when you let it out, I want you to let it out a little bit more slowly than you inhaled. Let's do that now. Now, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to talk directly to your nervous system, out loud. And what we're going to say is, you are not in danger. But when you say it, I want you to speak as kindly and as gently as you would to a toddler. And if that little voice pops up in the back of your mind and says, that's easy for you to say, what about all the people that actually are in danger right now? I want you to tell that voice, kindly and gently, yes, the world is on fire. But if I'm on fire too, I can't hold the hose. So again, we're going to say out loud, you are not in danger. Let's do that now. You are not in danger. That's a small nervous system reset. A simple moment to remind our bodies that here, together, in this space, we are safe. In closing, I want to leave you with this. Our nervous systems may not have been wired for the world that we live in today, but we are not powerless. Through community, connection, and co-regulation, we can reshape our brains for resilience. And it doesn't stop at these walls. The steadiness we find here and the way that we co-regulate with each other is something that we can carry back into a hurting world. When we show up calm and grounded, we become a presence of safety for others. We become the neighbor who can listen without judgment, the friend who can soothe anxiety, the advocate who can stand strong against injustice without burning out. This, too, is co-regulation, not only among ourselves, but as an act of justice and care beyond these doors. And that, I believe, is how we keep our mental health intact in this modern world, by co-regulating with one another here, and then carrying that steadiness out into a world that so desperately needs it. Thank you.